Okay, so before we do dive into that, there was something we did want to touch on. Of course, we have to touch on a bit of the background for people who haven't, you know, come across you before. So maybe we could start with, what was your childhood like?
That's interesting, yeah, because I'm writing a new book called The Devil Decoded. And in The Devil Decoded, I speak about how monsters are not born, they're created. And the devil that was inside me, which is a nickname that was given to me, but the monster that was inside me that drove the rage that I had when I was a young, started in the care homes of Liverpool in the 1960s. And I'd like to clear up something about my childhood and things that happened to me when I was a small child. In 2015, I was falsely accused of raping a girl. And the Liverpool establishment turned its machine on me. And every time a story was told about me, it started with me as an 11-year-old car thief. And I decided to go back further than that and go back to what happened to me as a 6-year-old child. I did what's known as a subject access request under the Freedom of Information Act 2000 to access my own child files. And that comes as a result of my own personal white paper I wrote that I sent to the Home Secretary, the Prime Minister, the Justice Minister. And as a result of my own personal white paper, Merseyside Historical Child Abuse Unit investigated what happened to me and the allegations that I was making that took place in Wootton Vale Child Assessment Centre, a Victorian hellhole where the devil was born. I was at a Christmas party, 1965. I was 6 years old, and they invited a celebrity in to give us presents. I received a red fire engine with a silver bell and a yellow ladder on it. And that was given to me by the celebrity, who then attempted to touch me underneath. Underneath is what we used to call our private areas. So I smashed him in the face with the fire engine. I was a feral kid. Yeah, we were raised different in the south end of Liverpool. And I cut his face. He bled from his eye. The first man that I ever made bleed. First of many. I reported him to the staff, and I was branded a dirty, lying black bastard, shipped off to Wales. And when I was in Wales, yeah, I was beaten into silence, so much so that I regressed those memories. Yeah, I forgot all about them. When I was in jail in 2016, charged with raping a woman that I call She Cannot Be Named because she has anonymity for life. A gentleman called Ediate phoned the jail, spoke to a friend of mine called Spencer Benjamin, and told him that I was guilty of the rape and that the police were going to change me into the next Jimmy Savile. That name, Jimmy Savile, triggered something inside of me. And memories that I'd regressed began to cascade forward back into my mind. And that's when I remembered it was him that I'd smashed in the face. Nobody believed me. Everybody said I was a liar. then DC Lee Stinch of the Merseyside Historical Child Abuse Unit accessed my child files. When he contacted me after he read my child files, he told me, "I'm glad I wasn't alive in the 1960s. Having read your file, it's very sad reading, very horrific reading." Well, he read about it. I lived it. Yeah. And he established that Jimmy Savile was at the home at the exact same time that I was at the home. And that if Jimmy Savile was alive today, he would be charged with offences against a number of children in that home. Now, just think if I would have been believed at that time, how many children would have been saved and spared from the anguish of sexual abuse and physical abuse. I was never sexually assaulted. I was physically assaulted. I was beaten into silence. And to add incontestable evidence to the story that I'm telling you, the home, Woolton Vale Child Assessment Centre, a Victorian prison, was closed down 10 to 15 years later as part of Operation Care. Operation Care was the investigation into the allegations of physical and sexual abuse against children in care homes in the Northwest. And in the conclusion of Operation Care, 36 convictions, 12 social workers, well, they call themselves social workers. They were actually paedophilic monsters, were sent to prison. Now, either I have a time machine and I'm an absolute genius, or what I'm saying is the truth, because I blew the whistle on that place 15 years earlier. And as a result of what happened to me, yeah, I left that place with a rage. I read my own child files. And when I went into Woolton Vale Child Assessment Centre, I was nicknamed Smiler. Never knew that about myself till I read it in my own child files. When I left, I was no longer smiling, yeah, and the rage was put inside me. The rage that manifested itself in the 1980s and gave birth to the monster that I became in that period of my life. Yeah, that was, and I don't speak this to curry sympathy or sadness. What happened to me made me the man I am today. But what I've managed to do, right, is when I came home after beating the rape charge, had the birth of a young child, which I'll explain to you later. But I was trying to get custody of that child, and I was told that I had to address my offending behaviour. So in order to address my offending behaviour, I went into psychoanalytic therapy. Yeah, I had a session every Thursday from 4 o'clock till 5:45, £90 a session. Yeah, where I had professionals help me address my offending behaviour. It was part of a group therapy. Yeah, I was in a group with people that had committed murder, people that had committed arson. Yeah, and I actually came up with a name for my group, and it was Monsters Inc. And the whole group had a good laugh over it because it was monstrous men addressing their offending behaviour. And this is where I was diagnosed in 2018 with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, the trauma that I was suffering in 2016, being falsely accused of rape with a target on my back in 5 different British prisons, reignited my childhood trauma. Yeah. And that's what makes the PTSD complex. Yeah. Now, this is all being certified and diagnosed by professionals. And I only went to therapy. Yeah, you're right. I didn't think therapy could do anything for me. I thought therapy was a load of rubbish. I only went to therapy because I was attempting to get this child that I got that was born while I was in prison to be a single father, primary caregiver, because I can give her a great life if they let the child come to me. And therapy revolutionized my life and helped me decode myself and rebuild myself into the man that I was always meant to be. So the devil's dead. I'm now the fighting preacher. Yeah, and I actually fight for those that can't fight for themselves. Actually physically fight too in the ring, still at this age. Yeah, because I'm about fights, not funerals. I'm about dojo classes, not class A drugs. I'm about gyms, not gangs. Yeah, I'm about gloves, not guns. This is the work that I do at the present moment in time.